He is the member of Congress representing Florida 1. Congressman, thank you for being here.
I love that lead-in music. I got a little job going on.
Let them dance, Jimmy. Let them dance.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
Overall, I just saw all the success coming out of Davos and the president's speech about the Peace Commission and what they're doing there with a deal in place in principle for Greenland and so forth. And across the board, by and large, we saw the Secretary of State there speaking, Marco Rubio. By and large, people really like the cabinet around Donald Trump, but they don't like one of your own, Pam Bondi, very much. They seem to be angry at her a lot, but you are applauding her because she's taking swift action to investigate this invasion of a church in Minneapolis over the weekend, which was completely out of line. And by the way, completely illegal, led by Don Lemon, the disgraced former CNN anchor, and others. You're pretty pleased with her action on this. Tell me about it.
So, look, I used to have a 300 man, woman law enforcement agency when I was a CFO of the state of Florida. When you do an investigation, look, there's definitely videos out there that are very powerful, okay? But you've got to get to the bottom of those investigations and make sure there's you can't immediately throw somebody behind bars just because of a video. So Pam's got to do her due diligence. I think everybody would love to see quicker, swifter action of people behind bars, because we get so, to your point earlier on your segment, we see stuff on social media, it gets us spun up. But Pam is a rule of law follower. She's going to make sure when that prosecution takes place that somebody's not going to get away. She was a prosecutor in Hillsborough County for a number of years before she was our own attorney general. So look, she is going to be thorough because she doesn't want to lose a case.
Right,
and
that makes
losing
sense.
a case means somebody walks away, and she is not going to allow that to take place. So, I see arrests taking place. There's a number of particular charges that can be dropped. But as I told some folks yesterday, man, the simplest one, just arrest them for trespassing. You just get something out there.
And the quicker you
we
nailed
do
it right there. Because they're saying, well, we have a First Amendment right not to invade private property and disrupt a church service, because you know what they have? A First Amendment right to worship the way they see fit and without interference. So that's kind of, but you mentioned all these people being arrested. I have this list that I've put on my desk. These are all the Republicans that were arrested and prosecuted during the Biden administration. Names like Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, Christina Bobb, Tina Peters, and others. And here at the bottom is the list of people arrested and prosecuted under the Trump administration. Nobody. And that's why there's a frustration with Pam Bondi. And I appreciate that she's going to do an investigation here. But people are chomping at the bit for results, aren't they?
And they are. And look, I appreciate how the president wants to right the ship. His first administration, I think there was a number of folks he could have gone to, that he could have arrested, that he could have pursued charges with. But it was kind of like looking at the past of how previous administrations conducted themselves. I think he learned this time that he saw what they did to him under the Otto Penn administration, that they were going to do everything they humanly possibly could to weaponize the court system. Letitia James and all those crackpots in New York were going to politically pursue him. And I think part of it is, look, we're going to go after these people who weaponize the courts, that have broken the laws, that have manipulated and lied on mortgage forms, not for their primary residence. And I'm glad they're going after them on whatever charge they can find where they broke the law, because nobody is above the law.
Lisa Cook is, apparently, according to the Supreme Court. The question was not whether or not he could fire her. The question should have been, how do you have three primary residents when you're getting more mortgages? It's called mortgage fraud, speaking of violations. Let me ask you about something else happening on Capitol Hill today, and that is Jack Smith is going to be out there. Speaking of people that were rogue prosecutors, as far as I'm concerned, he's a disgraced former special prosecutor. He charged and went after Donald Trump not once but twice. He's going to be answering questions live on TV today. What do you expect?
Well, I appreciate that. This is the things we've got to do to show that if the Republicans are going to be in charge, we're going to make sure that there's not going to be a weaponization of the politics or federal agencies. And we've got to be clear and transparent. So, unfortunately, we've got a single vote majority in the House of Representatives. So as much as I hope we go through and create some meaningful findings from this investigation, whatever we might do in the powers of Congress, we may have our hands tied because we lost Congressman LaMaffa. He died about 2 weeks ago. We're just losing bodies in order to be able to hold things together when it comes to critical votes. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate,
I
but I mean
saw somebody.
it's
I saw somebody say one bad outbreak of flu and you're completely handicapped. I mean that's the
that's
fact,
right.
right?
That's right. And the flu is settled in the chamber. You had Derek Van Orden, who his wife had gotten very sick. He had to take a few days off to go take care of her. I mean, these are people that have families, that have real lives, and sometimes there are challenges that are posed to them that you've got to put family first. And unfortunately, thank goodness Derek is back. But prayers for Doug's family. He was a good man. But we got a special election that won't be into August, so we won't have that vote to count on to get things across the finish line.
Yeah, let me ask you one more thing. I'm going to shift gears for the last couple of minutes here.
Okay.
In Davos this week, Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, said we could see growth in America of 7 or 8%. If you think 5.4% is good, we could see 7 or 8%. You see energy prices coming down. You see the price of groceries stabilizing. You see inflation below 3%. A lot of people think that 2026 is going to be great guns for the economy, and if it is, you might actually hold on to that slight majority or maybe add a seat or two in the House in the midterms. What are your thoughts?
So, Daddy always said if you want to get somebody's attention, you get in their pocketbook. And so, this is exactly what the One Big Beautiful Bill did. This is exactly what the president is doing through his leadership and how he is bringing back our dependence on fuels that we can control. So ultimately, the other day I gassed up at 2.21 a gallon. There's prices around the nation that are under $2. But for that business model to trickle down to everyday groceries, it doesn't happen overnight. So I feel very good that we're starting down that path. The economy is only going to get better and better every single day. And just reflect back a little bit to what it was like in January of 2020. It was the most radioactive, white hot economy we've ever seen in the United States. Things were cheap, times were good, homes were affordable. The 4 years of the Biden administration were devastating to the American household.
Certainly was. Congressman, I really appreciate you being here. These are all important topics and things we need to keep an eye on, so thank you for your time.